All right, more Doctor Who stuff to cover. Okay, so I talked about the trailer. Now let's talk about the stuff that got brought up at the panel in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, where they had Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall, one of the executive producers, and 2 out of 3 of the new companions. I didn't memorize all their names. I apologize. But we did learn a little bit in terms of details about what is coming in the new season, and most of what was said was stuff I wanted to hear. So some of the, basically the highlights, because I did watch the entire hour-long panel, so that you don't have to, here are the basic highlights of specifics that were said, aside from just anecdotes shared, what's it like working on the blah, 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 which is not uninteresting, but I kind of had to slog through that stuff to get to the stuff I actually was interested in hearing. Lots of emphasis on new. Not just for the Doctor, but for the adventures, for the things that she is going to encounter. Lots of emphasis on how much is new, and that I am game for. I like Doctor Who's attachment to its history as a show. However, it can at times become overly masturbatory, especially, I think, more than anything when it comes to most of the series arcs and, building to a finale against a returned classic series villain pretty much every time. Series 1, the Daleks. Series 2, the Cybermen and the Daleks. Series 3, the Master. Series 4, the Daleks and Davros. The specials, the Master again, plus the Time Lords. We got things a little bit different kind of in Series 5, but they basically just shoved everybody into that. Series 6, okay, different, finally. That episode didn't stick the landing, but that's one of the few exceptions. Series 7, we had The Great Intelligence again. Series 8, we had Cybermen and the Master, Missy by this point. Series 9, the Time Lords Rassilon, so kind of new, kind of old, but it was also hell-bent. And then Series 10, Cybermen and the Master again. I mean, we just keep cycling through these same things over and over and over again, and as happy as I am to get them back, I want more new stuff. I want more freshness. And that was one of the things I was really hoping Chibnall was planning to bring, was just more stuff for the show to play with in the future, because that's the problem with becoming overly enamored with the stuff you've already done, is you start to recycle it and you're not building an equal amount of new stuff to be able to call back to. And so that excites me. Since I mentioned the series arcs, it was said a couple of times actually by Chibnall that these are 10 standalone episodes. That specific phrase was used. Now, does that mean definitively that there's zero connective tissue between adventures? No, it absolutely doesn't. But it does mean that we're not dealing in two-parters, and one would assume that if there is an overarching story, in the nature of Bad Wolf, Cracks in Time, Silence Will Fall, etc., the hybrid and so forth, that it's going to be something that it is not central to the plot of most of these. Now, strictly speaking, that is kind of how they started doing series arcs. That harkens back to series 1, 2, and 3, where you got things like you just keep hearing Bad Wolf over and over again until you find out what that means in the finale, or you hear Torchwood repeated several times until you find out what that is in the finale, or you get a number of references to Harold Saxon until you find out who that is in the finale. So potentially they could still do that. I'm kind of hoping not. I'm honestly kind of hoping that there is no overarching series arc for this, for series 11, and that's not me saying never do it again, and that's also not me saying that it was never done well. Just saying, can we take a break from that? Speaking of things we're taking a break from, it was not said definitively, it was not said outright that the Daleks will not appear in this series. It was pretty heavily implied, though. What Chris Chibnall said when asked by the woman who was hosting the panel, I think she asked something to the effect of, what's it like to work, with Daleks? She was asking about, older monsters. And what Chris Chibnall said was, well, we've got 2 weeks left to shoot and we haven't seen a Dalek yet. Now, does that definitively mean there are no Daleks? No. There's 2 weeks left to shoot, but that would mean that if Daleks do appear in this new series, it's going to be in a minor way. It's going to be one of two things. Either it's going to be, frankly, a little bit like they were in, say, Series 10, where they're basically a one-off scene, just a random thing for them to bump into and move on from, or it's going to be something where they end up being behind something and they're kind of the surprise reveal behind what else is going on, and that would require only a couple of days of shooting with the actual machines. So saying that they haven't seen a Dalek on set yet does not mean they aren't there, but it is also distinctly possible that the reason he put that emphasis on it, not wanting to say it definitively because he kind of didn't want to say anything definitively, which I don't blame him for. But he was really heavily implying this kind of "don't hold your breath for Daleks" kind of thing, tone to his voice. And if the Daleks get a legitimate hiatus, like year off, thank you. Like, I've been begging for that. Like, zero. I think we need a year of not even a requisite cameo. We need to not see them for a series. And I'm now kind of hoping that's got to be the case. I'm not going to pitch a fit if we end up God. Oh, this has been a long weekend. If we end up actually seeing a Daleks, I'm not gonna throw my hands up and go, but I would really like them to not, if it is an option for them to not actually put them up on screen. So, because that's something that's always kind of, you get variant stories on that, but I'm not going to get into that again. So, I like what I heard. In addition to the trailer, which I already talked about, it gives me just a lot of reason to be excited for this. I love the emphasis on new. I like that Chris Chibnall said it's being designed as a jumping on point, and that's part of the reason why there's so much new stuff. And I think that's good because I don't think we've had a truly legitimate jumping on point since Series 5, because you would think each new Doctor is potentially jumping on point, but that kind of hasn't been the case. Series 1 obviously is designed as a jumping on point. Series 2, when we got Tennant, technically he started in the Christmas special, and that special didn't really make a lot of sense unless you had the context of what had come before it. When we got Matt Smith, that was very much a jumping on point. That was pretty much a clean slate in many, many ways. When Capaldi came in, while Deep Breath doesn't totally fail as a jumping on point, it wasn't really designed to be. There's too many callbacks to too much stuff. We've got a holdover companion. That first adventure is with characters who were introduced previously. It's not really a strong jumping on point. So designing this as a jumping on point, I think is also a wise idea, because I think there's going to be a decent number of people who maybe are going to check out the show for, if not for the first time ever, for the first time in a while, because of the new Doctor. And I do wonder, because I never follow the viewing numbers, the ratings. I don't care. I just don't. I care insofar as, is it getting canceled because the numbers are so low? If the answer is no, then I don't care what they are. So I never followed that. But more than a few people have said, and I should have looked this up, I should have confirmed that, but I didn't know I was going to talk about it. This is the effect of me rambling, which is what I do. But more than a few people have cited how the numbers weren't great throughout Capaldi's run. And I do have to wonder if part of that is by the fact that his first episode was not new viewer friendly, to be frank about it, because one would think that a new Doctor should be a big draw for new audiences. But when that first new episode, it doesn't feel like it caters to new audiences, well, you're not going to bring them in. And then, shows tend to hemorrhage viewers over time, more often than not. And it's just a question of what your retention is. But whenever they get a new Doctor, that is a chance to bring a whole either a whole new bunch of people in, or to bring back people who maybe decided, you know what, Capaldi's era wasn't working for me. Maybe Moffat's entire run wasn't working for me. Oh, new creative team, new doctor. I'll check that out. And so I think it's wise to not have it overly soaking in what had come in the previous series, previous seasons. So that everything that they said was stuff I was happy to hear. Now, that all lays out the theories, the principles, the guiding philosophies of how they're approaching it. Does that mean they will actually stick the landing and it'll be as good as I want it to be? No. No, because you can have the best ideas in the world. You fail the execution, it doesn't matter how good it was on paper. But if it is a good idea, or at least, to what I like of Doctor Who, for what I want from Doctor Who, these are all things I wanted to hear. And it waylays some fears, because I said after I finished Broadchurch that I was concerned that because so much of the strengths I saw in Chibnall's writing in Broadchurch seemed to be linked to serialized storytelling, I was really concerned that he was going to try and bring that to Doctor Who. He put an emphasis on these being standalone, so he's not doing that, which was a sigh of relief, because that was a concern for me. So the more I find out about this new series, the more excited I get. It took me a little while to warm up to the casting and get over the shock of it, but I'm excited for Jodie. The more I see of her, and seeing her on the panel, seeing her enthusiasm, and I loved her answer. If you didn't see the panel, I loved her answer because they got asked, who would you cosplay as? She was the first one to answer. She immediately jumped up to the microphone and said, Sloth from the Goonies. That's a great answer. That was awesome. So I'm loving the enthusiasm I'm seeing from this group. Chibnall, I'm not going to say is completely done away with my concerns, because I can still look at his writing and go, there's reasons to be worried here. But the approach he's taking is the approach I would like him to take. So it's just a question of sticking the landing at this point. Pretty much everything is lining up in a way that I'm going, yes, that can work. So now it's going to be down to execution, and we won't really know till the shows start airing. Well. So I'm not quite done talking about Doctor Who yet. A little bit later this week, I am going to talk about the new sonic screwdriver in a couple days. So until then, the San Diego Comic-Con Doctor Who panel. Have you seen it? Did you just read a write-up on it, of what was said? Whatever your thoughts are on anything that was said or that I said or whatever, well, just drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. There's all the stuff to do, such as like and subscribe, and oh god, I almost started going through the whole list again. I'm trying to stop doing that. You know what the stuff is. I have a Patreon, that's kind of the big one, but there's links for all this stuff down in the description if you care, and if you don't worry about it. And until next time, this council is adjourned.